Hi, today's lesson is about finding the percent of increase and decrease given two numbers. The first thing that we want to do, given the percent of increase and decrease, is to look at two values and find the amount of change that is occurring between them. What I mean by that is the following. To find the amount of change, you need to find the absolute value of the original number minus the changed value or the changed number. When we speak about absolute value, what we are actually talking about is a number that is always positive. So no matter how you subtract this, whether it's 5 minus 10 or 10 minus 5, your answer is always a positive value, and in this case it would be 5. So let's start with an example. Let's say we had the numbers 80 to 100. The amount of change that occurs here is the original number 80. The first one given is always the original number. And we subtract from that 100. The absolute value of 80 minus 100 is a positive 20. Once we have our amount of change, then we can go ahead and set up a proportion using a percent, the amount of change, and the original value, and we can compute the percent of change. So here's the equation that as it exists before we start putting numbers in it. The amount of change divided by the original value. And that's going to equal our percent, which we are looking for, over 100. So given the previous problem, our amount of change was 20. So that goes on the top. The original value was 80. We are looking for the percent of increase in this case because it went from 80 to 100. And percents are always expressed over 100. So we have a nice proportion set up. All we have to do is do our cross products and solve for the percent. So we begin that here. We multiply 80 times x, and that's going to equal 20 times 100, which is 2,000. Now it's just a matter of isolating that variable x and solving for it. So 80 and x are multiplying. To take the inverse of 80 is to divide, and what we get is 2,000 divided by 80, which is a 25% increase. Okay, let's do another example for percent of increase or decrease. Last summer, there was a big Irish festival, and at the festival, 15 bands appeared. The following summer, 18 bands joined the festival. What is the percent of increase of the number of bands that joined this summer? So remember, we need to find a change in the amount first. So last summer, there were 15 bands that joined the festival. This summer, there are 18 bands that joined. So the amount of change here in absolute value terms is 3. So now we can take our change, which is 3, write it over the original amount, which is 15. And we set that equal to our x over 100 because that is the percent part of the problem. We are ready to rock and roll and solve this. So we're going to start with 15 times x, and then 100 times 3, and they're going across the equal, so that's why there's an equal sign between them. From here, you need to divide by 15 to isolate the x. This goes into itself one time, so we have one x left over, which is what we want. Divide 15 into 30, and our final answer is 20%. So there was a 20% increase of bands that showed up this summer. In this example, we're going to be given the percent and the original number. And what we are going to be looking for is the actual change. We're going to figure out how much did it change according to that percent. The Canton High School boys basketball team won 15 games last year. This year they won 20% fewer games. What was the number of games that they won? So listening to the words again, 15 is the original, and they have 20% fewer this year. So how many games is that less than 15? This is what we're looking for. Here's the setup given the information. You can take the 20% and write it over 100. Remember, the 15 games they won is the original number. Original numbers always go to the bottom. And we are looking for the number of fewer games that they won this year. So now we're ready to set up and go and solve for this letter X. Again, we start with our cross products. Now we're going to multiply 15 times 20. And you can punch it into a calculator and you will get 300 as your answer. Again, we divide by 100 on this side to isolate the X. And we do the same thing over here. There's a couple of zeros to cross out, and we're left with 3. That 3 represents 3 fewer wins. However, it doesn't answer the question. The question was, what was the total number of games that they won? So we need to go back to the original, which was 15 games. Subtract the 3, and we end up with 12. So this is the number of games that they won this year.